hit the record.
Thank you, Edwin. Welcome back, everyone, to our ongoing quest to build a culture of empathy. We are recording this for educational and promotional purposes. And we'll start with a round of short check-ins, take up to about 30 seconds to share any questions, comments, etc. from the last session, or how was the empathy buddy call, or any short report from facilitating an empathy circle this last week. And I'll call on Sam.
Hello, hi Larry. Hello everyone. Yeah, it's wonderful. I was able to connect with Kian, and we did a 15-minute exchange and more deeper. And I'm also just really grateful for the benefits of the Empathy Circle, really allowing us each individually to have the needs met of being heard fully, without interruptions, without, being fixed or judged or, all those things. So I'm just grateful for this process to deepen it a little bit further. As for the Empathy Circle and a larger group, I have my own MBC group. And so I'm able to incorporate this, and Larry, you're part of it. So I'm grateful for your bringing me to the Empathy Circle that Edwin and everyone here is developing to foster and continue the progress and learn more about ourselves. I'm grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Kian.
Yeah, so yes, I had a buddy called Sam, which I really enjoyed. And yeah, as well the 15-minute turns. I enjoy the longer sessions. I'm curious actually about the hour, the hour of reflection. I haven't done that yet, but I would like to do that. And I don't think I did not facilitate a circle this week, but yeah, I'm just really happy to be here.
Thank you, Kian. Maria.
Hi, everyone. I did not have a chance to connect with my buddy this week, but it was a buddy I had from week 1. So Kat and I were emailing each other. Hi, Kat. And that is basically what I've been working on what I am just chatting with Edwin has just been a crazy schedule for me right now. I feel like I sign up for these trainings when my schedule is clear, and then the universe knows I've signed up for a training of something, and then everybody wants time. So I'm just excited to be present with everybody today for the next few hours and continue honing the skill of active listening.
Thank you, Maria. Catalina.
Hello. So I had my buddy call with Mina this week. It was really lovely to see her. And thanks to Graham, I joined an empathy circle. So I helped facilitating there, and I'm really proud of going the next step. So I'm just waiting to see what today's session is going to bring and the following ones as well. So thank you.
Adeline. Thank you. Thank you, Adeline. And Dustin?
Yeah, I had an empathy buddies circle meeting with Lisa, and it was awesome. We kind of got a chance to talk about she was talking about her family and trying to get that empathy circles established with her family. And I was talking about how amazed I am that she's doing that, because it is like even difficult. It's like trying to herd cats or something like that, trying to get my family to like gather together and talk. So it's like, yeah, so this is, it was a good empathy circle one-on-one. I was happy to have it with her. So yeah, aside from that, that's about it.
Thank you, Dustin. Leslie.
Thanks, Larry. Yeah, what a week. I'm beginning to feel like empathy circles are like the only the only form of communication that I'm like wanting to participate in these days. I had just a really beautiful empathy circle with my mom this week, and it left us both feeling from pretty tough places respectively, like just really uplifted, really held and connected, and it was a beautiful experience. I think that my empathy buddy here is maybe not in the circle anymore. I didn't hear back from Anouk, but yeah, I'm just so grateful for this space to come to. Thank you all.
All right, thank you. Did I miss anyone? I hope we covered everyone. So Edwin, back to you.
Or you could call on the trainers, trainees too,
Oh,
if we have
okay.
time to check in.
Great. All right. Edwin, can we start with you?
Yeah, I had an empathy buddy call yesterday, but I got the full hour from myself. So it's like, I just got to speak. And I thought, this is really great. You know, I got all these people. I should just say, who wants to do empathy buddy calls where you just listen to me? So I always feel guilty because I'm always doing a lot of the listening. So I thought, this is really great. I can imagine you just get to talk into this space. It just felt so good. And I've even said, I feel kind of guilty having the full hour. And they said, well, I offered it, you know, so don't feel guilty. So that was really good. And,
You deserve it.
Yay, that's the spirit. So I'm going to call on you to listen for an hour. Yeah, I could even be part of your practice. I had thought of, if you're familiar with the focusing process, I had thought of putting myself out there as a guinea pig to people could practice on me. Oh, right. You're supposed to do an hour of listening, trying to do an hour. I will offer to be the listenee, right? So I can get all this time to be heard. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. So thinking of a lot of, you know, things I can do around that. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Edwin. Your time is up. All right, on to Lou. Next on the screen here.
Thanks, Larry. Yeah, so I'm really happy to be here. It's so nourishing for me to see everyone's smiling faces. It's really a highlight of the week for me. And I'm so grateful to all of you for being here and for doing the work that you're doing. I had a good week. I had an empathy buddy call with Larry, which was only a half hour. Actually, I'm not even sure it was a half hour, a full half hour, but it was really nice to get to know him and to learn about one another during that call. And I'd say, you know, the other thing that's present for me is a couple of things that I participated in this week that were group things that didn't have any kind of structure for the interaction. And, you know, the dynamics that happen just naturally are, you know, were so present, and it was so dissatisfying, you know, to not have a chance to hear from everyone and to not feel like everyone's getting a chance to participate and learning from the bits that everyone has to contribute, because everyone's thoughts and feelings matter and make a difference. And so it's just a kind of a lesson for me in the value of Empathy Circle by kind of the absence of those little pieces of structure that make a difference. And then my own struggle with, you know, should I try to control this? Should I try to say something? Should I try to shift it? Yeah, so that was interesting too, the internal stuff that goes on in making that choice, dealing with my own feelings and then deciding whether to do something or not. Thanks, I'm in.
Thank you, Lou. That really touches my heart.
So I think Larry has.
Yeah, he's frozen for me too.
He's blocked out.
Right.
So Bill, you want to go till he comes back?
Sure. Yeah. So I've been doing a couple of the trainings on Wednesday and Saturday. I didn't have a buddy call. I think my buddy was in bereavement. And what else? And doing the empathy in schools, and the response to that has been very encouraging. We're going to be opening up some more and continuing the cafe for right now. And so I'm excited about that. Thanks.
So Larry, you froze about 10 seconds into your share, so we didn't hear you, and we moved on to Bill because you were frozen for a while.
Oh, thank you kindly for letting me know that. Actually, I'm not sure if you can hear me now. Can you
We
hear me?
can.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. So Bill went, and Michelle, have
Well,
you
do you
gone?
want to finish your share, Larry? Because we didn't hear it really.
I was just really resonating with what Lou said. It really touched my heart, you know, that we certainly have this intention of complete inclusion. And if that is ever missed, it's heavy in the heart. And it really, to me, shows how all of us naturally need that, want that, and love that inclusion. It's so important to us. So I'll stop there. Michelle, did you go?
Not yet. Thanks so much, Larry. Yeah. And yeah, so I'm checking in with so I didn't have my empathy buddy this week call this week. It was with Gavin, and I realized like the power of these circles is that like just the strength of that emotional attachment that happens just over, like if you're on the same circle a few times, and then when somebody isn't there for a few weeks or has difficult circumstances, that's like, you know, preventing that, like there's this kind of sense of care and concern and wishing for their well-being. So yeah, so even though we haven't had our empathy buddy call, she's very much like that's, I'm just holding that space. And the circle this, so I took part as part of a circle this week on the weekend of like, it was emotions, like empathizing with emotion, like empathy and emotions, like an exploration into that. And it was like intentional that was done across both genders, like to see from both perspectives where we go deep and just share what that's like from both. And it reveals so much, like, and it's just like, you know, this intentionally coming into this place of creating, like, you know, this kind of harvesting of, like, you know, what you can learn from that, and like really like kind of intentionally going into like, so that like to create this shared pool of understanding. It's just it was amazing to see how much everybody grew from that experience, and how much, like, how alive that was for everybody. And it just keeps reinforcing for me how much, like, you know, how much this is like the practice like that it just seems very important at the moment. Yeah, so I'm checking in with a sense of aliveness, like, yeah, enthusiasm, and a cauldron of other mixed emotions that are going on. Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. Really, that beautifully touches on, you know, this thing of life that's going on. Someone once said, you know, life is what goes on while we're busy making other plans. And this amazing life experience is going on all the time. And if we do, you know, deep dive into it, it's like, wow, a whole universe of emotions and feelings and thoughts. And thank you, Michelle. Graham, did you check in yet?
No, I haven't yet. Thank you, Larry. I feel very comfortable and enjoy being here. And even the laughs we've had today are some of the reasons why I enjoy being here. I've had a whole stack of empathy type meetings, empathy group meetings, facilitation meetings, and one-on-ones, and enjoyed really every one of them. From our circle, I've had one assigned empathy buddy session with Janos, and we spoke for 2 hours, and that just flowed beautifully. When he's on his own, all his inhibitions come away and he relaxes.
Wow.
I had one with Larry, and that was superb. I think we maybe spoke for an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours, but it was just wonderful. And one of the noteworthy things were that we could have silent patches. And for me, normally when there's a silent patch, I hit a panic button, but we were able to sort of just be there in the silences. and the connection was superb. Thank you. And then I have virtually a daily empathy session with Dustin. I mean, we don't call it an empathy session, but man, the conversations have got loads and loads of energy. You can't doze off in the conversations. I try, Dustin, but I don't manage it. So anyway, a really good week. Oh yes, the final thing is on Friday, I was in an Empathy Circle Facilitator Support Group led by Lou. And that was very stimulating. We had lots of very, very interesting themes. And there was a guy called Sergio from Mexico, just speaking wonderful English. And he talked about our collective intelligences. And this just kind of resonated. And the collective intelligences come out of deep, deep connections. And then you can put your intelligences together. So I look forward to today. Thank you all.
Wow, that's awesome, man. That collective intelligence. That's that's what Marshall says when in his book called Practical Spirituality. That there's a collective intelligence. He called it a beloved divine energy. I think were the three words Marshall used to describe it. And he said that's what he does in empathy circles, or when he's trying to get resolution, is to just bring people together in a safe space. And he said he actually heard that divine energy say to him one time in a very difficult situation, just bring them together and I'll do the rest. This really moved me. Kat, thank you, Graham.
Hiya. I've had a lot on this week. So I did an extra circle a few weeks ago with a pagan group who have now got someone interested in a research manager in the university who wants to find out more about the circles there. So that might bring on an extra one there too. And so I've got my usual circles tomorrow as well. If anyone wants to take part in those or even co-facilitate, you're very welcome to join. Because I do have a lot of interested people, so I'm always looking for people who want to come and join in. So you're welcome to do that as well. And yeah, I also did an extra circle this week with my work, so I introduced them to it to a level, so their curiosity is piqued. So I'm hoping to get that more developed within the company I work for as well. Thank you, Larry. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Kat. Edwin, I think we're back to you now.
Yeah, it's Bill, gonna do some feedback.
Yeah, not much feedback but from the talk that the trainers had before, we talked about anger, and we, oh, sure. Michelle?
Sorry, Bill. I'm so sorry, Bill. Maria has her hand raised. Did we miss Maria?
Oh,
no, we didn't.
Sorry.
No, I'm so sorry. I just wanted to share something for 10 seconds.
Okay.
I just wanted to share something that I forgot because I was called on first. The reason I have been so busy is because more and more companies and leaders are asking for talks about empathy and about the research behind empathy. So I just wanted to share that with everybody in terms of like this hopeful nugget that this is going mainstream. This is something that leaders, I just did an executive roundtable for C-level leaders yesterday. And they had so many questions. They did the exercises and their answers were great, so that this education around what empathy is and what it isn't is rapidly permeating the workplace and business environments where people can put it into practice right away. So I just wanted to share that like good news with people of that it's not just us in our own, we think it's important. It's spreading. It's a good virus that's spreading. So I just wanted to share that to just give everybody a little bit of optimism and hope that this work is not for naught. So thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it might help XR in a massive way because that's the virus that might break capitalism, get empathy into the big corporations.
That's my goal. That's my mission.
So the major theme that I picked up on, and we have about 5 minutes, a little bit less. So just to, we might get more into the circles, the breakout circles. You certainly can flesh this out. But the topic that came up is anger, when people are angry. And just to give you an overview, like what was it? Larry just said, bring them together and then I'll do the rest. Well, bringing them together is the miracle. The doing the rest is like once people have accepted the basic premise, then it's, I'm not saying it's all downhill or something like that, but that's the big issue. And so that's what's the scope of the circle? How much can the circle contain? We talked about with people who are at odds, doing pre-circles, establishing that the facilitator is a neutral and trusted person to begin with, and then to try to bring them together into some sort of dialogue. So that was the issue. Pre-circles is one of the issues, is to recognize, read the room, recognize when people are not ready to talk to each other. Also recognize whether you are a trusted person. Someone tried to facilitate, I think in XR, one of our trainers, and they were identified as being on one side or the other, and so there couldn't establish that sort of trust. So these are the things that go in to build participation in the empathy circle. And so that's just something to be aware of. Notice, I think from what Lou said, notice when someone's really angry and making a lot of harsh judgments, your capacity goes down, right? How many times can I be called or whatever? And you lose patience with that. So it's important to note your capacity and to not necessarily judge it, but also realize when you're coming to the end of your rope and just saying, okay, this is what I need to do to take care of myself in this situation. I'm not judging you or anything else, but I realize that my own limitations, and invite everybody to help, hold the circle if possible. And if not, retreat, regroup, and then, try again. And that's just some very general advice. I won't go on any long. Are there any, just real quick, any burning questions that have come up about the training or anything else? Velocity? No, it looks like you're all good. All right.
I just want to add that I think in the Friday facilitator support group, which happens every other week, I think I will do a session on increasing one's capacity for listening to anger. Because I think a lot of people do have a challenge with that. So that's something I'd like to do a session on. So yeah, just be aware of that you could come on Fridays and we could talk about that.
Okay. And
I think in terms of questions, I don't know if this training series is the right forum, but I'm so curious as to Edwin's and if any of you have to hear the behind the scenes experiences of facilitating empathy circles in the most fraught environments. Speaking of anger, like what was it like to do those empathy circles at political rallies? And what were those bumps in the road? How did you get people into the tent? All those kind of like behind the scenes. I'm just so curious because I think we could extrapolate a lot out of that when we're in less fraught situations, like when we're doing one at work or we're doing one where it's not as emotionally charged. We could take away some great lessons. So again, I don't know if our weekly trainings are the right forum, or if that's like a special edition of the facilitator support group or something like that. But I'd be personally really interested in it. I'm sure others would be too. So thanks.
Okay, so Lou looks like he'll address it. Edwin, go ahead.
I could give a quick one. If you saw that one empathy circle that I sent the link out to, where it was like a super intense, people were screaming and yelling in the empathy tent, and that was a mediation there. That one I just went. It was at UC Berkeley, and I went to the leader on the far right, who was the leader, and I said, "Hey, would you like to come into the empathy tent and do an empathy circle?" So I was just going out and inviting So it's actually, yeah, and he came in and he actually brought the whole demonstration. You don't see it, but there was like 100 police officers outside of the tent, and you could see that there was one group trying to shut it down, with all the screaming and yelling. So that's not quite typical of what happens. That was pretty extreme situation. So the main thing there was just going and reaching out and say, would you like to come in to the tent to do it? There was another one where we did something similar in the same spot. It was someone who was on the right. He was sort of an artist on the political far right. And there was someone who was a communist. And we brought them together to the point where into the tent, and the guy on the right said, "Oh, I'll shake hands," and the guy on the left said, the communist said, "No, I don't even know who you are." And we did a little mediation with them, and it was like kind of tough because the guy on the right didn't want to really listen properly. And then Lou stepped in and he started mediating it, and he was able to hold it, and he had to be pretty forceful too in terms of stay with the process. This is what we're doing. I remember Lou saying, "You are not listening." And I thought I was listening. "No, you are not listening. Just repeat back what you heard this guy say." And he repeated back. And at the end, the guy on the right had, I guess, been partying all night, had drunk a lot, and was like super thirsty. "I'm so thirsty. I'm so thirsty." And then the guy who's quote communist, gave him his water bottle, and he drank out of his water bottle. So we could go on for hours about this, but I don't want to go too long. So I don't know if anything to add to that, Lou.
Yeah, I'll say a word or two. So I think one of the main skills in being employed there is the ability to remain present when there is a lot of energy. And that's, I get knocked off too. Sometimes I can't do it, but, and it's one of the good reasons to co-facilitate with someone, because that way, if you lose your center, you're not alone. But the ability to remain present so that you can actually continue to listen and hear what the person is saying underneath all the energy. And, often what happens is there's so much energy, people just get triggered, and then you're afraid, your fear is coming in and your own judgments are coming in. And so, that's some of what we can work with and practice with on Friday if we do a session on, I said dealing with anger, but really you could just say really charged situations, whatever, where there's a lot of energy. The other thing I will say, which Edwin kind of referred to, is the idea of firmness. So there's a difference between firmness and judgment. So firmness can be applied without any kind of judgmental or aggressive intent or flavor to it. And it is true that when people come with a lot of energy, what you have to do sometimes is have some firmness, meet their level of energy with your level of energy, holding the firmness of the process and saying, well, this is what we are doing. Do you want to do that? Or it seems like you want to do something else. And that's a lot of what I was doing when Edwin was describing was, kind of pulling the person back into the process and saying, so will you do this with me? Will you do this? And eventually they did. So.
And I'll just quickly add, one of the things we do in Street Actions is that we break it down. We don't say, do you want to have like a full-fledged empathy circle? We say, do you want 10 minutes of listening? And we start with that. And the key that I look for in those situations is that when the person agrees to do that, we usually offer them chocolate and a little water or a little something else, to kind of like set the stage, being homey. And then when the person, speaks and then you do not respond, you just reflect, then there's a sort of opening there. I do want to caution a little bit. Sometimes when people are in extremis, they don't see it the way we see it, and they don't see firmness. And one of the things, Lou and I were at a convention with, I think it was literally the largest Trump supporter. It was an African-American man. He was 450 pounds. I don't know if it was Larry or something. And if you looked at that circle, it was a disaster. you know, because he would not listen. He would not listen. And Lou was being firm, and I was like standing up, and you know, I had
Bill rescued me.
Yeah.
I actually did lose my center.
Yeah.
And Bill was there and came in. Yeah.
Yeah, just said, but you know, and so if you looked at it, you'd say, oh, that was terrible. But then, you know, he felt included. And so there's a picture, I think Edwin has it, of he picked Lou up in one arm and the other. I said, I love these guys, you know, and I think, and Lou is never at a loss. And he says, make America great again. He goes, no, make America empathic again. And he always had something to say. So those are all great, but always read the room and see how someone is taking what you're saying and then adjust if necessary. And that's what I learned from crisis intervention, being a special education teacher. And okay. And I think,
I just want to say, Bill,
sure.
To me, that was a great example, that incident of how a guy like that expects to be thrown out. He's probably been thrown out so many times. Because we did not throw him out, even though it was difficult. That's why he wanted to hug both of us at the end, because we didn't throw him out. We, you know, and that was our embodying of a culture of empathy, even though we were very firm with him.
Right.
You know, we didn't throw him out. So.
Okay. Well, I think that's food for thought and discussion in the breakout circles, places to go. And so I will turn it over to Kat. If you're going to do, you ready to do the?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Take it away, Kat.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're ready to go into the breakout rooms for our last circle of this training. So this circle is just for integrating your experiences and your learnings. So we've been growing our crops, and now it's time to harvest our feedback this week about the training. So we'd also like to hear what you want to do next with Empathy Circle, with your practice and training as well. So there'll be some topics posted in the chat room. What's your most valuable learnings and benefits from the training? And what's your next steps with applying the circles, or whatever's alive for you this week as well. So we'll go until 15 minutes to the top of the hour, and we can have a 45-minute debrief. And you'll get your 10-minute warning before the end. So anything else before we go off, Edwin, to the breakout rooms?
I will have 3 rooms, and the first one, Michelle will facilitate, and then Graham, and then you, the third one.
Okay, and it's 5-minute turns.
Yeah, it's 5 minutes. It'll be one group with 5 people, so maybe 4 minutes in that one in your group. And we are going for about an hour and 10 minutes.
You have to quarter to an hour. Yeah.
That's not, we're going, how long are we going for? We're going to a quarter of the hour.
Yeah, hour and 10 minutes.
What's that?
An hour and 10 minutes.
Oh, hour and 10 minutes. There we go.
Until quarter to the hour. Yeah.
Okay. So we are.
And 4 minute rotations.
There's 2 groups with 4 and 1 with 5. So the 4 group maybe just 5 minutes, but it's up to you to decide what you feel. You can always shift. So okay, here we go. See you there in the questions in the chat too. I was looking for that picture of you being held. I couldn't find it. Okay. That's the 5 of us here.
Okay. Okay, then we'll go for our 4-minute turns. And I've got my little clock to tell you when it's time. It is not the right time either, right? But it's an indicator, not a time teller. Okay, so who would like to be the first speaker? And you can select your listener as well. All right, Sam, you want to select your listener?
Yes, Leslie, would you be my listener?
Yes, happy to.
All right. So what are some of the valuable things I've taken away from this empathy training? You know, I started this about 10 years ago, and this really gives me that concrete format. And I love the groups where you can join in and actually learn, and it's a very structured format. And having the sense of everyone gathering together, especially on Zoom, so you can meet with all the variety of people throughout the world, has been, I'll pause there, and has been really beneficial.
Yeah. So I'm hearing you've been at this a long time, 10 years. And like what you're appreciating about this particular training is the structure that it gives, and the opportunity to connect with people, I mean, via Zoom, like all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, and then furthermore, the development and the practices, each of the 5 weeks, I can see myself building, and the attention to details, the structure of the activities. And then I also like the balance sharing within the trainees and the leader and the big facilitator, and then of course the breakout sessions, and then the harvesting. So the whole, the quality is really something that I'm appreciating. And thank you so much for developing it in such a conscious and careful way.
So you're really appreciating the care and intention that goes into the unfolding of this experience and this process, it sounds like, and just sort of tracking, like, sorry, I'm sorry.
Okay, all good.
Yeah. Just really appreciating, like, tracking sort of your own progression through this, like the unfolding of it. And it sounds like just, sorry, it just sounds like, on your end, and then also appreciating in the trainers, like with the trainees, like just the conscious intention that's here.
Yeah, the conscious format. Yeah. And then tools like this, the time format, so that we have balance sharing. Because I know in some of my empathy practices that I've done in the past, I've given myself too much and been empathetic listening, and not so much the balance sharing that, I want empathy too. So that time thing is between 3 to 5, 15, however you guys discuss, agree, is really valuable too.
Yeah. So the balance for everybody who's participating, like having a time to share as well as be listening. And in your experience, it sounds like being somebody who often is supportively listening, like you're appreciating that there's a mutuality in this process, in the structure.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, what are my next steps? Yeah, to establish this, I think, in my empathy coursework, and to invite other MBC trainers who also have done this in a while, to also have the kind of the basics of the MBC and the pure listening skills. I think that's a great way, and then incorporate these puppets, the listening puppets, right? So that's the MBC puppets that I have, and to do more around my community, and maybe use this in yeah, I'm hesitating saying work, because there's a part of me that would love it there, but the culture, this is my own story, right? My own story is like, it's not going to work, but we'll see. So I'll lean into that discomfort little by little, take a step here and there, with no promises, but yet I wanted to at least try, especially when there's conflict.
So it sounds like there's a desire to sort of lean into some discomfort around bringing this into work. There's maybe a little bit of hesitation or skepticism that it might work in that environment, that it might sort of integrate well in that environment, but that you're wanting to maybe give that a go. And the other thing, I hearing you say that, like, you're wanting to integrate it with what you've been doing, which is the NBC practice, and bringing the giraffe and the jackal into the empathy circle. Yeah, very good. Yeah, I'm not sure that it's going to work at work, because there's a hierarchy, it's a dominating structure, it's a power structure. And I've tried to bring a little bit to it before, and it just didn't work out very well. But yeah, I'm complete. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just hearing that you're not sure, you'd like to bring it into work, but not sure given the power structure that's there, that this will really take root there. Yeah, but I'm very, very grateful. Thank you, Leslie, for hearing me through that. Yeah.
Someone, dear listener.
Absolutely. I need to do something here, and I apologize for it. As you know, Kim and I are desperately in search of a place to live right now. And I think I just got a call about that. So I'm going to actually step out and come back and be able to be fully present, because I recognize that I will not be if I don't make this call. So I apologize, and please excuse me. I will be back.
That's okay. Who would like to be the next speaker? I want to volunteer.
So I'll go next.
Okay, Lou.
And I'll speak to you, Kat.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's see, what am I taking away from this training? Well, a lot of hope and nourishment from meeting new people and from watching them learn this process and get value from it and be excited about trying to figure out where they could use it in different places. Yeah, that's very nourishing, and I feel very grateful actually to be able to do that.
So you're just reflecting on what you're taking away and kind of observing the people that you're meeting that you've not met before, and kind of observing them. And you find it very nourishing to see the way that they are excited about where they're going to apply it and the value of it, and it's sort of appreciating that kind of witnessing.
Yeah, and the fact that people come from all over, you know, from very far away and from different cultures, really helps me feel like I'm having a big impact, like a big reach. And it also helps validate for me one of my core beliefs, which is, you know, that all human beings are, you know, basically the same. There is common humanity in all of us, and a desire to connect and understand one another, that those are kind of universal. And that's very, that also makes me very hopeful and really nourishes my soul.
So you're just saying that you're also kind of observing the range of cultures and different people coming from all around the world, and seeing the impact that you can see that you're making as well, and sort of observing you're sort of observing in yourself your core belief that you are you're witnessing them doing that, and that's kind of feeding you to say, okay, there is people here that are wanting to do this, and you're seeing the humanity in all these different people, and that's helping to validate back to you that there is a desire for people to connect, and it just keeps making you feel that kind of hope.
Yeah, and it's one thing to kind of believe it, and it's another thing to actually experience it, you know, see it happening, and that's very reassuring.
Yeah, so the reassurance of actually experiencing that felt experience compared to just the idea of it.
Yeah. And then the other thing that just gets reinforced kind of over and over, and I kind of am continually moved by, is just the power of the structure of the empathy circle process, the very simple pieces of structure that produce a very amazing result. And it's all the little pieces of the structure. Part of it is that it's time turns. Part of it is that the listener becomes the speaker. So it's like after you've been focusing on someone else, you haven't been sitting there thinking about what you want to say, then you become the speaker. So you're kind of a little bit empty, you know, when it's your turn to start talking. Part of it is you know, that we're just reflecting, you know, not questioning, not agreeing or disagreeing or any of those other things that normally happen. And the power that, well, I guess how rare it is actually that people get listened to that way. And so it has a big impact on people when that actually happens. Sorry, and that was a lot. I should have paused.
So you're just observing the reinforcement of the feeling moved by the power of the structure, and then you're describing the structure and how there's these simple pieces. There's a timekeeping, there's the different roles, and there's moving on between the roles, and it's just giving people that space to be heard, and you just observing how rare that is and the power of that simple structure.
I feel completely heard. Thank you.
Thanks, Lou. Leslie, are you ready to be a listener? Would you be my listener? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I just realized you've already listened. Okay. Can I change my mind to Edwin just to make sure that he's been round? Is that okay, Leslie?
Actually,
Yeah.
I'm wondering, do you want to give Leslie a chance to speak? Because she really didn't get a chance.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was thinking she'd missed something. It's all right. I'll go back to you, Leslie. Is that okay? Yeah. I was thinking there was something missed, but I was like thinking, no, she's listened. It's okay. Good. Thanks, Lou.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
okay.
you.
Sorry, Edwin. The circle is redirected.
Sorry for the disruption there.
It was actually Leslie's turn to speak, and then
Right.
she got,
Yeah.
so she may want to be the speaker.
Yeah. Okay, Leslie, go ahead. You can be the speaker.
Sure. Edwin, would you listen?
Yep, listening.
Okay. Yeah, I think one of the things this time around that I'm sinking into more and really appreciating is the embodiment piece that's available in this process. When we slow things down enough, meaning, in the structure, there's not sort of that competing dialogue going. When there's just the possibility of quiet space, there's a chance to tap into the fullness of our being. And that just feels really important.
So when we slow down and for listening, that you have a space for the full embodiment of what you're thinking, and it just feels really important, and hearing some appreciation for that.
Yeah, and not just thinking, like just what you're feeling, what you're sometimes what first in your body before it's clear to you even anywhere else. Just to sort of be embodied,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's beyond before thinking. So you are embodied. You have that space to feel into your body. Even before it turns into a thought, that you're able to have quiet and space for that. Instead of being in competition, maybe all that stress and tension, you have space to feel it in the emergence of that from your body.
Yeah, and it makes me think about what Lou and Bill were talking about with all of us out there. About sometimes the need to be firm, the need essentially to sort of hold a structure, or even sort of hold some limits or boundary. I think that is a huge gift, or at least opportunity in this process, to navigate that space between us in a way that has the potential to be inclusive and respectful in all directions.
I think I'm hearing something about the structure, that the structure has a kind of a firmness to it that allows these different qualities to happen. I don't know if I quite got that, but.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that the firmness of the structure, and I guess I'm sort of tapping into and curious more about what Lou and Bill were talking about in terms of sometimes the need to bring a certain kind of firmness, and so it just makes me think differently about it. It's not that firmness that's sort of pushing back or pushing against, right? It's that firmness that says this is the structure, this is what we're in.
So you're thinking about the firmness of saying this is what the structure is. It's not like pushing someone, but kind of holding the structure, and you're kind of relating it to what Lou was talking and Bill were talking about, that sometimes you just have to be assertive or firm in terms of holding that structure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm really curious about that. I'm just curious to hear more Lou, or anyone who has experience in that kind of situation of, yeah, just broadly, whatever you want to say about that experience of just of bringing a firmness that isn't, that isn't sort of pushing right off center. It's like holding center and holding firmness.
So you're really wanting to explore that quality of holding firmness where there's a sense of a center and a groundedness, and kind of wanting to learn more about that. It's not just like curiosity about how do you hold that, what does it mean, and sort of the nature of it.
Right on, you totally got me. Thanks. Yeah.
Oh, great. So speak to Lou.
Okay.
Yeah, I love these discussions to be kind of looking at the qualities of the empathy circles and the dynamics, like that sense of firmness and sort of exploring it. Yeah, it's really sort of, to use your word, delicious.
Yeah, so you're celebrating and savoring the conversation that we're having here about the subtleties and the flavors of the empathy circle, and you're really enjoying that.
Yeah, it's like with doing the empathy circles, you know, I try to bring the structure into different situations, and people really resist it's like, no, I'm not going to do this. Somebody was saying, this reminds me when I was growing up evangelical, you know, it's very firm structure and controlling. I don't want any structure, and, you know, just totally being against the structure. And so I just thinking about that in terms of, yeah, that was sort of part of it. People sense structure and rigidity, a certain firmness, and they sort of don't want it.
So all this talk and reflection on the structure and how it works makes you remember the times when, which sounds like it happens maybe frequently, where you try to bring this in and people don't like structure, and they're saying, I've had very bad experiences with structure and I don't like structure. I feel constrained by it.
Yeah, but that sense of structure seems, and then I'll say everything is structure. You're not wanting that structure, you just want a different structure. So everything we're doing is some kind of a structure to it. If you're wanting so-called freedom structure, that's the structure of whoever's the loudest and most dominant sort of wins, you know, the attention and the center. So that's a structure too, you know, so everything is usually, structure gets a bad rap, but we're kind of like surrounded by it. So, yeah.
Yeah, so you try to answer those objections by pointing out that everything is a structure, even saying no structure, that is a structure, and that structures have consequences.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. Yeah. The other part that I do like about is that, you know, we do a lot with recording these calls. You know, there's an openness and a transparency to it, and versus sort of a strict confidentiality and sort of all these confidentiality agreements. I think that openness is important to what we're doing too. That I think to build a culture of empathy, you know, for, you know, being secret, it's, you know, sort of more of the therapeutic, you know, we have to have all these safeguards around, you know, protecting ourselves, that I think that has some consequences too.
So it sounds like you're saying that you think that openness, and a kind of a radical openness, which is recording the things that we do and making them public, that's an essential part of creating a culture of empathy for you. And you think of that in opposite to the kind of privacy, private conversations, therapeutic sort of model of protecting people's privacy.
Yeah, and I can understand that, you know, there's a need for that in a lot of situations, but there's also a need for if for a culture of empathy to have we have one of the values being openness, that to be open. It's like somebody said, you're not free unless you do free things, right? It's like you say, oh, we're all for freedom, but you don't do it freely. There's a disconnect there between the actually doing it and the saying that this is our value. So
yeah, so it sounds like you're really exploring that, the idea of openness and freedom, and how recording and the content of the circles being available publicly. You think that for you, that's kind of an embodiment of the openness that you think is part of the culture of empathy, an important part of culture of empathy.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. Thanks.
Okay. So let's see. So Kat, do you want to take a speaking turn? Or
yeah, I'll take the turn and then we'll go
okay.
around.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you. Sam, will you be my listener?
Myself. Here we go. Okay, yes, of course. I had to
Thank
mute
you.
myself. Okay.
So for me, I suppose every time I do these trainings, I always see perception shifting. Try and say that 5 times. I'll let you reflect that.
Sure. It sounds like yeah, when I hear you say that when you do these empathy circles, you see the reflections shifting, the perceptions shifting.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got your perception of yourself, you've got the perception of the circle itself, and then you've got the perception of the facilitator training.
Yeah, so what I was hearing you say is that there's a perception of yourself, perception of the group, and then perception of the training.
Yeah, the perception of the actual circle processes. So all of those perceptions are always shifting. So every time I do more, I'm completely changing all the time.
Yeah, so when you do these empathy circles, you see yourself developing and improving even more.
Yes, and I appreciate the structure as well. I need to say that because have it, as you said, about the balance in the space and that people actually having that space to actually be the one speaking that is given that space and what's the word? Respected with that space that's designated for them. I just think that's really important. I wish that was more normal.
Yeah, how you, so I'm hearing that when the balance sharing happens and after listening, the listener becomes the speaker, and how the both and is mutually satisfying and more fulfilling when we have the balance sharing.
Yes, so if you could even get that into your normal daily life, so there wasn't like a dominant kind of dynamic all the time, it would be nice because there's just constantly people trying to dominate the space, and it's like, why don't you just let people have a space?
Yeah, so I'm hearing that we'd love to have this more mutuality in the world and not be.
Yeah, so at work every week there's like a team call or like a catch up thing. And there's just all these people and they always follow the same dynamic and they always just talk. And I just sit there and it's really hard to interrupt because it takes a lot of energy and trying to push your view in. And it doesn't make me feel good.
So yeah, at work, I'm hearing for you that there's a process and it's very dominating and you really want to be heard.
Yeah, so with that same group of people though, they've now had an empathy circle and they've experienced the benefit of that space. So I'm curious to see whether that will start to impact on that conversation dynamic or not over time.
I'm hearing that you're curious about how this is going to work at your workplace and how it's going to work out over time.
Yes, because once people have witnessed themselves giving someone a space and realizing, oh, I never thought that person did that, or oh, I didn't know that, they'll start kind of looking at them a bit more with curiosity that they've never had before.
Yeah, so once you're at work and you're hopeful that once they become aware of the benefits of, oh, I didn't know that it had this benefit or that benefit, you're hopeful that it's going to catch on.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see. Thanks very much, Sam. I feel fully heard.
You're welcome. And I've already gone, so who hasn't gone?
I think we've been round everyone, so we're ready for another round the circle.
All right. Blue, would you be my listener?
Yes, I'd love to.
Let me reset the timer here. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. I'm yeah, I'm just really touched. Yeah, there's a part of me that just wants to do this full time.
Yeah, so you're really touched by the conversation that's happening and you enjoy it so much, you just like to do it all the time.
There's a lot of support and there's the practice exercises. And it just seems like the simple and yet effective, powerful model that we can all embrace and embody and bring it forward. Yeah.
Yeah, so you love the simplicity of it and you you love the power of it, or you see that it's powerful. And yeah, so you are really enjoying it.
And there's like a sweet sadness that I'm feeling. And it's kind of inspired. It's like this foundation of inspiration. It's fountains of inspiration. It's just really hopeful and looking forward to doing more.
Yeah, so you're experiencing a sweet sadness. And you said it sounds like part of that is from, or maybe all of it is from kind of the hope and the actually I lost the thread of the rest of it. Sorry.
Inspirational foundation.
An inspiration, right.
What did I say? Inspirational fountain.
Yes, yeah.
I'm just envisioning this water fountain. It's very helpful. And
yeah, and I imagine that's the sweetness. And I don't know, I'm not sure what the sadness is.
I think the sadness is, thank you. That's a good segue to like wanting to contribute more meaningfully. And yet the culture that I grew up in is about, working and accumulation and buying stuff that I don't need.
Yeah, so it sounds like the sadness is about having a desire to feel like you are contributing to this process, and you would like to feel like you're doing that more. And it sounds like you're saying that you recognize the culture that you grew up in, which was about material things and about work, that it doesn't, that participating in that doesn't contribute the way that you'd like it to.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm just kind of sitting with that realization from moment to moment, and just reflective. How am I going to bring the next chapter of my life? How is it going to look? Am I really living a life of meaning and purpose? Yeah.
Yeah, so you're just really sitting with that and letting yourself feel it. And it's also then that's making you reflect on, what is the next chapter of your life? What is the next phase of your life? How will you actualize your desire to live it with meaning and purpose?
Yeah, thank you. I feel supported and heard. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I'll go to Leslie.
I'm listening.
So I'm very touched by Sam's sharing. Just how real and how open you are. So it's beautiful to know you kind of that's going on in you.
So you're feeling touched and really appreciating Sam's openness and the chance to really get to know him in a genuine way.
Yes, yes. And that brings up in me how much one of the things I love about empathy circles is that people do that and that it's a safe space to do that, for me to do that too. And the kind of closeness that that creates. And it reminds me how much I love closeness. And I guess you could call that intimacy. And it's, you know, it's like there's nothing better.
Yeah. So you're really appreciating both in this circle and just in the opportunity that empathy circles provide for people to share, you know, both vulnerably and authentically, and the space that opens for like really feeling connection with people, like a genuine, meaningful kind of connection.
Yeah, and how much I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I wanted to say something about, you had asked about if there's anything more to say about how to hold a container with firmness. And I think so a piece of it is being willing to access power and to access strength. So that's part of it. And another part of it is seeing the humanity in the other person. So not losing sight of that, not falling into judgment. And either because like, oh, this person is making it difficult for me, like my fear that I'm not going to be able to hold the circle. And so I get angry that like, why are you making a problem for me? Or why are you making a problem in the world? Like it's people like you that are, you know, this is why the world is a hard place. So not falling into either of those kinds of judgments, but seeing the struggle that they are having, that they are behaving the way that they are. So that's a lot. I'm sorry, but
No, Lou, I am hearing and wanting to talk to the place for firmness and the empathy circle. I hear you talking about a willingness both to step into one's own power and strength, to take that up, and also to see the humanity in another person, and to recognize, you know, sort of beyond the place of any judgment that one might bring, that this person's struggling, and to see, like, to ask the question, like, what is it that they're struggling with?
yes, and I think that's what makes it possible for me to use just the right amount of strength to hold the container without any desire to harm them or in fact, to hold them. What Edwin said about it's about a holding. It's not about pushing or forcing or anything. It's really about holding.
Yeah. So, you know, being willing to see somebody's humanity allows you to use the right amount of strength, as it were, to sort of hold the space and hold the circle, the people in it. Yeah.
Yeah, with no desire to punish, really, just with a desire to hold. Yeah.
Right. And so it's not having to push back or judge or punish. It's really just holding. It's really holding the space.
Thank you. I feel heard.
Yeah. Yeah. Kat, would you listen?
Yeah, sure.
Lou, thank you. And I felt a need to try and like capture some of that jotting as I was listening. So I hope that I was present to you. That felt really found like some missing pieces that I've been looking for. There's a lot of clarity that I just heard in what you expressed, Lou. So thank you.
So you're just expressing gratitude to Lou for what he's shared with you as you've been capturing that, because you feel it's missing pieces that brought you some clarity that you were looking for. And
Yeah. I'll share something sort of anecdotally, I guess. you know, we're talking about structure and listening to Edwin before, it sort of made me think of this, but I think it's an interesting discovery to get to make. And Kat, you talked about it, about like people that sort of dominate a space, right? Rather than sort of holding a space. I'll pause.
So you're just reflecting on the interesting discovery involved and the structure. So you're wanting to refer to something Edwin said, and you mentioned what I said about people dominating the space.
Right. So I have somebody close to me who is very caring, also like really eager to know what's going on in our situation post tornado here. And I noticed in a recent conversation, seemingly through care and concern, you know, sort of the taking up of space. I'll pause.
So you're just kind of reflecting on that, an example of someone you know, they're caring and eager, but then you're watching a conversation where in their caring and concern, they're actually taking some of the space with that.
Yeah. And, you know, and asking lots of questions and wanting to have, you know, lots of input back from me. And it was, I guess, like a sort of a foray into what we're talking about, which was, we had agreed to have an empathy circle, actually. And so that agreement allowed for, you know, the firmness that came and said, look, like, this is what we said we're going to do. Let's have this sort of an exchange. And in doing that, you know, everything that was sort of like tight and gripping inside of me, like being barraged by questions and all of that, like felt spaciousness. And, you know, I ended up being able to choose where I was going to share and sort of respond to what they were interested in the first place.
So you're just sort of saying an example of someone when you're dialoguing, they're actually asking a lot of questions and putting things in, but then by you actually having that agreement to hold an empathy circle and being able to be firm in the way that you're going to exchange, you're able to actually get the space to actually respond and actually say what you want to say with your choice, and also get to respond to what they were asking.
Yeah, and you know, and something that I think would have devolved in sort of attention and people kind of navigating boundary in a push me, pull me kind of way with the structure, just like created so much space. This person ended up saying like that she felt like such uplift and there was just such connection, and it was you know, a meaningful exchange, because that dynamic of people competing for space or taking space or demanding something, being in the space, like all of that was gone just by being in the structure.
So you're just sort of looking at how it can devolve, and then there's a bit of a push-pull with the dynamic. But then this person actually observed that the uplifting feeling that they had from the connection, and how the dynamic was just gone, and it was just better. I missed the last bit there, sorry.
That's okay. I know we're at time. I do feel heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. Could I speak to you, Edwin?
Yep, listening.
Yeah. I've had an interesting week, I suppose. There's two things going on. One, Leslie's example there is one thing that I've been thinking about. And the other one is all about the heart. I'll pause there.
So you've had an interesting week. One is sort of related to what Leslie is saying about the sort of dynamics, and the other is something about the heart.
Yes. So I was having a conversation with someone, and I was really, really wanting to hold this way, because my heart was wanting to come in, and I was trying to access certain things, and I really was trying to politely ask them to do it the way I wanted so I could do what I was trying to do.
So you were in a discussion with someone, you wanted to bring your heart to it, what you're feeling, and it sounds like there was a little bit of struggle because they weren't kind of going for that, or
Yeah, because I didn't want to dominate them by telling them, you will do this way, because I need you to.
Yeah, so you didn't want to dominate them, say, this is how we're going to do it because I need this. And so you're kind of concerned about being domineering.
Yeah, but at the same time, I was like, actually, this is one of my needs, and that's it. So they need to respect that as part of the relationship. I've sort of realized.
So on one hand, you didn't want to be domineering, and on the other, you're saying this is what my needs are. And
Yeah, because I really want to be able to like live and be. I want to be in my heart and live from my heart, because generally, if I'm being where I want to be, my heart's all there and it's all the time with everyone, all the time. Everything's got meaning. Everyone's got meaning. There's meaning everywhere. It causes me problems by being attached to that too much.
yeah, so you like that quality of everything has meaning and hearing everyone and kind of being in that flow, and kind of trying to create that way of being causes problems for you.
Yeah, it's just when I attach to someone that I want to do it with me that is not going to or isn't able or whatever reason, and then it just causes that issue that you kind of get shut in or hurt a bit.
Yeah, so when you don't have that type of dynamic, you get shut in, can't express yourself, or you feel hurt. And
Yeah, yeah. So I'm sort of seeing a way to be able to just sort of be in myself with that, and then also like take this around in a natural way to give it to people to then encourage them to return it.
yeah, so it sounds like you're saying that, like with the empathy circle, kind of the process that it does is it kind of holds that space of kind of being able to share where you are, and you want to bring others into that sort of that way of being.
Yeah, because if they want to be around me, then I just want them to be in that with me, because that's where I'm at. I don't like to be shut down with a big brick wall all the time in order to interact with people.
Yeah, so if you're sort of saying, if you want to be in a relationship with me, this is the dynamics that I would like. I don't want to be shut down and have a brick wall around me. I'd like to be open and have a mutually empathic listening relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I just want to say again, I just appreciate the structure and just the whole thing. So thanks very much.
Yeah, so an appreciation
having me.
oh yeah, it's contributed to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel fully heard. Thanks,
Okay.
Edwin.
Great. Well, I'll speak back to you then, just to shift things around.
Okay.
So yeah, I love this topic of assertiveness. I think Leslie I think what's come up from different directions. I think it's a really important topic, and how to navigate that assertiveness. So I really find it important. I think you're saying it too, like, I'm going to be assertive. I want my heart in the relationship. I'm going to be assertive about this, and just so that whole assertiveness, what does that mean? Question.
So you're just opening the question about assertiveness, and you think it's a very important topic. You're really liking that topic right now, and you're sort of hearing what we're saying, and you're seeing it in what we're saying as well.
And there's something about the assertiveness, but how the assertiveness happens in terms of, it's an empathic assertiveness in a sense. It's like I really hear you don't want to do this, for example. So you empathize, you do it with the resistance to that dynamic. So there's something about that, the empathizing with not wanting to be in that type of relationship.
So you're sort of bringing the two terms of assertiveness plus empathy together, and having empathy with someone's resistance about not wanting to be in it.
Yeah, and hearing it and empathizing with it. And because I think that what happens with empathy a lot is it's seen as acquiescing. Oh, if you're empathic, you're acquiescing to what others want, or you're coddling someone. It's like, oh, I got to be babied, I got to be, coddled here. And I think that those are not empathic. I think because it's not that mutuality part.
So you're just kind of saying that this is more about hearing and empathizing for what they're saying, rather than sort of coddling to them like they need to be given that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other part I'm thinking was I want to take this assertiveness to really take it up several notches, and that's like, camp out in front of the White House or the Congress. It's like, we're here until you take part in an empathy circle. You know, it's sort of the Kingian nonviolence approach, right? It's like, first try to talk to people and they say, well, we don't have time to talk to you. Then you do these nonviolent direct actions with the intention of creating an empathic dialogue. So, and then also people say, well, that's not empathic. You can't be assertive like that when you're empathic. And I'm sort of trying to navigate that, because it's like, you know, there's something about, you got to stand up for this, you know, and at a national, you know, big cultural level. And so I'm trying to navigate that.
So you're just sort of looking at, well, if I want to follow the culture you want to build at the level you want to build it, then you need to have that assertiveness in order to go into the situation, to start off by talking to people and then kind of building that up into an actual action, but it's a non-violent action, and the intention is still to have empathy. You need that power in it from the assertiveness you're sort of inferring towards.
Yeah, and a lot of people say, well, you can't demand empathy. Why not? Why can't I demand it? You know, it's like, this is my need. I think it's a cultural need. You know, let's demand it. And if you're against it, well, I will empathize with you against why you're against it. So I'm just trying to navigate that space. You know, like, how do you kind of do that in an empathic way?
So you're sort of talking about people sort of treating it like, well, you can't be demanding, but then you're like, well, this is what I want, and this is the culture, what we want as well. And you're still able to have empathy for them with that, but you're still thinking about, how do we navigate this? This is kind of your focus that you're seeing.
Yeah, that's my time. I feel fully heard. Thanks.
Thanks, Edwin. Lou, I don't think you've listened yet to me.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to.
That's okay. Yeah, I think I was talking around assertiveness. Yeah, definitely. Because that's something that you're like, well, I've got my needs, I'm just working out what they are, and then I'm feeling like I'm trying to demand them, but it's like you have to go from just being angry and not saying anything to then getting demanding to then trying to convert that into assertiveness, I would say, when you're learning the hard way.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're also exploring that line between demanding and being assertive, and trying to get your needs met, and wanting you recognizing that there is a difference between like demanding, insisting versus asserting, and that there's you want to find the path from one to the other, something like that.
Yeah. So I'd come across the term warm assertiveness recently. But now Edwin said the empathy, I'm like, oh, that's the missing bit that you need along with the warm assertiveness.
Yeah, so a term that you've come across recently is warm assertiveness, which you think of as that mixture between asserting yourself, but not demanding, not like doing it with judgment.
Yes. And then I've got another one I've come across recently, which is just another contrast together, which is vulnerability with boundaries. Yeah,
so another combination of things that seem like opposites is vulnerability with boundaries. But you think both of those are possible, and you're kind of exploring that.
Yeah, so it's just how to kind of bring these two elements together and then kind of hold those within yourself to be able to go into these situations where you need to sort of find a ground to start to work on what you want to do.
Yeah, so you're really interested in gaining more capacity to hold those two things, like vulnerability and assertiveness, together inside you, and to bring them to situations.
Yeah, definitely. So it's definitely a big balancing act. I think of so many things, and it's just like, oh my God, so much simpler when everything's absolute, black and white. Just be a child, much easier. Everyone else will sort the boundaries out. Everyone else will just tell me what to do. It's much easier that way.
Yeah, so you're reflecting on the difficulty of finding the balance between things, but it sounds like you're recognizing that there's value in that, but also finding some amusement in how much simpler it is to just like be a child, or just say, well, this is how I am, and deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I suppose I do. It's like when you're always the one hosting the party all the time. Like Adam will know this because he's hosting these all the time. You're always the one hosting the party, and you're like, when do I get to go to the party?
Yes, so you're recognizing the difference between being the host of the party and just being a free participant in the party. And part of you gets tired of being the host and just wants the freedom to participate.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe one day, like my sister's going to turn 40 soon, so we're making a lot of effort for her. So I'll be watching her when I turn 40 to be like, oh, we'll see.
Yeah, so an example of hosting the party is that is it your sister that's turning 40 and you're making plans for her and you're going to be the host, and you want mutuality in life. You want people to care
Yeah,
for you too. And
that
so
would be
that's
nice.
something that you're thinking about.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. I feel fully heard.
So I'll go to Sam.
Okay.
Yeah, so that thing of life being full of these things like that seem contradictory, like firmness and empathy, or vulnerability and boundaries. More and more I see that life is full of those contradictions, and that finding the balance, not rejecting either side, but finding the balance, that is really what life is all about, and kind of what self-mastery is about.
Yeah, so I'm hearing that for you, the balance, finding the balance between, how do we phrase it, the vulnerability and, help me out here.
Boundaries.
Boundaries, yeah.
Or any kind of opposites, yeah.
Yeah, the two polarities, and kind of how do we do both or in between, and seeing the mastery of that and pursuing that.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Yeah, and so what Edwin was talking about, trying to find that line between assertiveness, like wanting to engage political leaders in empathy circles, and how do I assert that and pursue that, and when does it become a demand? Like if I'm demanding it, is that a problem? That's one of those balances, and I have more I want to say about that.
So you're here that you're saying that Edwin, when how do you develop this and get to that assertiveness, and yet at the same time bring this empathy circle forward?
Yeah, and Marshall Rosenberg, this is the guy that created nonviolent communication. He talks about screaming in giraffe. So giraffe language is the empathic language of empathy and the language of nonviolent communication. And screaming in giraffe means that you can come with lots of energy. It doesn't mean being empathic doesn't mean, oh, I'm just always calm and sweet. You can have a lot of energy. It's more that I'm not coming with judgment of the other person. I'm coming more with what's going on in me. Like, what are my desires? What is my pain? What am I hoping for? And what kind of disappointment or frustration am I feeling that what I'm dreaming about is not happening? And so it's more you're talking about yourself than talking about the other person.
Yeah. So I'm hearing that the founder of NVC, Nonviolent Communication, Marshall Rosenberg, has a concept called screaming in giraffe, and being able to share your own pain without the judgment, but authentically, and sharing your genuineness and bringing that forward.
Yeah. So I think that's some of where that is. And I also, it's been one of my great life lessons that just because I express myself skillfully and empathically doesn't mean I'm going to get what I want. That was a great shock when I discovered that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm hearing that when you express yourself authentically and vulnerably, you may not always get that in return.
Yeah. And so, yeah, and then in those situations I've been faced with, so what am I going to do? Do I just mourn not being able to get something that I want? Do I need to turn some other direction to try to get what is important to me? Or, what do I do then?
So, yeah. So in that moment when it's not reciprocated, do you mourn? I'm hearing you saying there's a possibility of mourning, or do I turn to another source of empathy, or what do I do? Curiosity.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I see that's my time.
All right. Edwin, would you be my listener?
Yep, listening.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, what's stimulating me is this thought that if I, create the empathetic space and wanting that structure, and if the other person's not willing, I can see myself getting a little irritated and frustrated, and I'm also wanting to let go of the way it's supposed to be and just go with the flow of it. And at the same time, there's a part of me that would love that mutuality, and it's all possible.
So you're seeing that if you sort of propose that mutual empathic space with someone and they don't want to take part, that you're feeling some frustration with that, but wanting to sort of go with the flow, just say, okay, they're not wanting to take part. And so you're kind of trying to navigate that space of what to do there.
Yeah, and yeah, there's a very good, and also I'm guessing there's part of me that probably wasn't clear as to how I would like the reciprocation of the empathy practice. Perhaps it's one-on-one, and perhaps I wasn't, I can see myself or imagine that I wasn't clear.
So when you invited the person into this empathic space, you're thinking perhaps you weren't really clear about what you were requesting.
Yeah, I've noticed that in my past that I'm not very clear about my requests specifically. So.
Yeah, so you're just noticing that, or looking back at your past, that you don't make clear requests. And so really seeing how can I make a clear request around this?
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I'm reflecting that. Yeah, the more clear I am, the more likely I can meet my needs.
Mm-hmm. So just reflecting on that, if you can be more clear on what your request is, that you could better meet your need.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some hopefulness, and there's some motivation, I think. Just wanting to be more clear about what I say.
Mm-hmm. So you sound like you have hope that if you can be clear, that it will things will go better, and so maybe you're thinking how might you be more clear? What are the ways of being more clear in your requests?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Oftentimes I think I just need connection, and what I need was really self-connection.
Mm-hmm.
And self-connection can be an intra thing within myself.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it might feel lonely, and so there's a bit of loneliness, and so with that, I might want a reflection back of what I said.
So making those requests, you're connecting to yourself, and you feel lonely in terms of making those requests. And if you could get a reflection back about what you're dealing with, that would maybe help. And maybe connect the sense of connection too.
Yeah, the self-connection, sure. And then if I feel lonely, separate from that, there's I'm not clear about how I'm making my requests. And so I think that's where the confusion is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you're making a request, I'm not quite sure I got it, but if you're making a request that's coming from loneliness, that's, I don't know, maybe you could just say that again. It wasn't quite clear.
Sure. Yeah, if I'm self-connected and self-resourced, and right, I'm feeling maybe perhaps a bit of loneliness, maybe a sense of boredom, that how do I make myself clear as to that I just want a reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So
when those things are going on inside of yourself and you do feel self-resourced, but you feel some loneliness and maybe some boredom, how can you make a request for a reflection?
Right. So it's just a reflection request instead of
Mm-hmm.
a connection request instead of an action request or a solution request. Yeah.
So how do you make that request just for a reflection about what's going on for you and sitting with that question? Okay.
Thank you. Yes.
Great. Then Leslie, speak to you.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a couple more things with the assertiveness. Well, actually, first, maybe what Sam was saying is in terms of what I wanted, what he's dealing with is what I would like to get better at too, is to be able to name the felt experience that I have. Like, oh, I'm feeling some boredom. I'm feeling some maybe anxiety about making a request, or I do feel resourced. It's just like whatever the felt experience is that I'm having, how can I get better at sort of naming that and expressing it? Yeah.
So you're really looking into and wondering about how to connect and be able to name your felt experience, and then how to bring that forward into making a request.
Yeah, I think that's module 2 of the training. It's like, you can't do it all in one module, but I do think that we need like maybe even do some circles around how do we really, connect more deeply with ourselves and express those. And, you've been into this mirrored motion and that kind of stuff. And I think those little exercises like that sort of help. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're looking into the possibility of adding, another module that just really supports people in tapping into like what's their felt experience, and then being able to connect with self and bring that forward into this process and the structure.
Yeah, and I never realized how time consuming and how much work it is to develop a training. It's like I have a stack of projects that I want to do just to, deepen this, what we're doing here. And I would love to be working on, module 2 on how do we connect more deeply, but there's just so much to, so many different projects to do. And I just, it's like, it's a lot of, there's a lot to it. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot to putting forth a training like this, like so much in the particulars and the detail, and that thinking of doing a whole nother kind of training just invites a whole plethora of more detail, and it's a lot.
Yeah. So, but once we get this, slowly, systematically, it's like a year down the road, module 2, it's going to take about a year to, to really flesh this module 1 out like I think it could be. So, but that's kind of where my heart is, Leslie, is the, the felt experience, the stuff you kind of do, like, I don't know if you've done focusing, but in the focusing practice where you stay with the felt experience. And I mean, that's probably one of the best practices for that I know of.
Yeah, this is where your heart really lives, in this sort of this dimension of the felt experience of things. And I hear you talking about focusing by way of sort of a concrete example that we can reference, that we know is really to the point when it comes to that. And that as much as your heart's in this, like reasonably, you're saying like, this is probably a year out, because like, just to keep filling out this training the way that you see it can be takes that much.
Yeah. And then, but yeah, it's maybe even doing you were talking about sort of next steps that we can do. Maybe we can just do some empathy cafes on that. Like, how do we go deeper in the empathy circle? How do we get more into the felt experience? That might be a topic for some cafes too.
Yeah.
You're doing those cafes. So maybe something along that. Yeah.
So you're brainstorming on maybe like taking a smaller step and making it a topic for an empathy cafe to start exploring like felt experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel fully heard. We have about 3 minutes, 2 minutes.
Okay. Is there time, or is this debrief, or how, like?
It's up to Kat.
Yeah, Kat, what do you want to do?
Do you want to have a debrief? How do you feel, Leslie?
I'd like just 1 minute, and then we can take okay, 1 minute. And I don't know who has it. I don't know. I'm not tracking well. Who hasn't? I haven't spoken to. Sam, I don't think I've spoken to you. Would you listen?
Sure, of course.
Yeah. So that was an excellent practice in having to have firmness with myself while listening to Edwin, because I would have, in another circumstance, just like jumped into the riff, and just been there with my own excitement, feedback, ideas like that. But as it was, just loved hearing Edwin's excitement about this piece.
Yeah, so I'm hearing that with being the listener with Edwin, that normally you might have gone to a different direction, but you stayed in it with the empathy listening.
Yeah. I mean, the structure that we're in. Yeah, and I guess I'll just thank you. I feel heard. I know it's just a minute, but Edwin, I would love to riff with you on this, and anybody who's interested in that. Yeah.
I'm interested. Yeah.
So, Kat, thank you.
Yeah, no bother. Thank you. Okay, we've got like a minute. So no one wants to say anything before we all come back. Lou, do you want to say anything?
Debriefing a little bit.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, on the topic of going deeper, people just make individual decisions about how deep they want to go or how much they want to share. And then there is a person's capacity for going deeper. Can they actually sense themselves? Yeah. And there probably are there are practices that help people explore that, how to go deeper. Yeah, so that'd be interesting to talk about.
Yeah.
Before we go, I just want to say something, Lou. I really want to thank you for naming something early on in this circle and looking, because I wrote it down. Yeah, being willing, you said, being willing to access your strength and power. And I don't know if that's, a gendered conversation is like part of that, I'm sure. But just you naming that just put something in front of me, like in my purview, that just feels really vital. I'd love to continue exploring that one in kind of empathy circle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting, I think, what makes us afraid to access our power. I mean, we do have strength. And I don't know if it's because I was an athlete, when I was young. I'm actually for most of my life. And so, that thing of accessing my physical strength, not just my emotional strength, but my physical strength. And then I guess I did grow up in a family where with 5 kids, and like the immediate family was like 40 people when we had a family gathering. And there was a lot of energetic, talking and people expressing. So that kind of stuff doesn't scare me really, I think those are elements of why I don't have trouble doing that.
Hi.
Hey, everyone.
Lou, you got a haircut.
I did.
So Graham, you're going to step in for this part, which was just going around to put the question in.
Yes, wait 1 second. So the question is, if you could just spend a minute or so on this subject, what did you enjoy? What have you enjoyed, or what's your takeaway from this whole experience of the empathy circle?
And I would add, this is also sort of a part of the feedback in terms of what would you tell other people, like why they should take this training. That's a bit of a promotional section. I'd love to hear
Okay.
your thoughts on that. So
So the
let's
idea
get
is
to the
we-
quick of it.
So in other words, we're preparing our little speech to whoever we're going to sell this subject to. And I'm going to just go up my screen, and Larry, you are first. So go for it.
All right. So I really enjoyed our circle, and I really enjoyed empathy circles that Edwin has put together so amazingly. It's incredible. We have this Zoom technology to communicate with everyone all over the world and practice this. And it is the practice of it that is the topic, so to speak. It is the heart of it, is the practice. And I love it. It gets us an opportunity to experience the heart of humanity and to witness it and be it and share it and create the safe space for it. And it's just fun. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. And next on my screen is Adelina.
So as I was saying earlier, one of the best things that I feel I got from this training is more courage. I'm feeling more confident in my skills, and I don't know, I just I feel a total different person by each session after session. So even though sometimes I have doubts if I can join, or I don't know, I'm not very sure if I feel up to it, then I realize that it's the best decision I'm taking in participating here. So thank you all for creating the space.
Thank you, Adelina. And Michelle, you're next on the screen.
Yeah, I just really like the people. Like the people. It just yeah, the movement just draws in these, like, I mean, all beings are sacred, obviously, like, but like some beings are just more in touch with their sacredness, and it just shines through in the people that are drawn into these circles. So I just, yeah, it's the people.
So thank you, Michelle. And Kian, you're up next.
Yeah, I have to agree with the people part. Really appreciating getting to kind of connect. Over time, having being with people, more than once, really going deeper. And yeah, also feeling, more confident, and having had some practice now, like now seeing where am I going to take this now, and excited for the possibilities.
Good for you, Kian. Thank you. Dustin, you're up.
Once again, I think our empathy circle was the best one, probably. I'm sure everybody else feels that way too. We we had a good empathy circle, and some of them were, like I've said this before, some of them were like all right. Some empathy circles are all right. I like to be honest. Some of them are all right, and some of them are awesome, and some of them are awesome. And this one was awesome. So I had a good empathy circle. It was good to be in a safe space where I feel like I can challenge the world around me a little bit, because I like talking about sensitive topics sometimes without having kind of like, without stepping on people's toes too much, or basically how do I say this, challenging the world around me, but also respectfully challenging the world around me, because that, this is a professional atmosphere, I feel, as well. So I really enjoyed this empathy circle, and I enjoyed talking about where it's going to go in the future. And for me, that means basically the future for me is you guys don't see me go anywhere. I'm going to be part of these circles, so that's how it is. So yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Dustin. And Bill, you're up.
Yeah, I really had a fun time with everybody in there. And I dropped a few F-bombs about the monarchy. I think maybe worried people, but believe me, if you have me as facilitator, I'll keep a civil tongue. Yeah, I was really seeing how the training has been designed for people to go at their own pace, and how valuable that is, and just to encourage you people You people. Who are you calling you people? I'm calling you people. And so how people can choose to go at their own pace. And I'm very excited about everything, the ideas that are coming up. And I'm very appreciative about how people in this training have really taken hold of that. So great gratitude to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And Maria, you're next on my screen.
So I have really enjoyed this flexing of your active listening muscle, and really isolating that and learning how to do that in a really focused way, as well as the inverse to that, which is being able to communicate your own thoughts in a concise way that other people can understand, which is also a form of empathy. When you know someone needs to reflect what you're saying, you work a little bit harder at trying to communicate it well and concisely. And so I think, you know, from a listening and a communication standpoint, the benefits are huge. And I think also just having the ability to talk about tough topics in a calm, safe, non-charged, respectful environment is what the world needs right now.
So thank you, Maria. Leslie, you're on.
Yeah. I am, you know, 3 rounds into this training and am in awe, actually, of a couple of things in particular. One is finding how much power there is in vulnerable expression. In our group today, I think was sort of inviting a question in sort of a tandem direction, which is how to have vulnerability or empathy like in strength and power. And so this like interplay back and forth, you know, how do we be firm in who we are and in the space, or in this case, the circle we're holding, and how do we come full-hearted and open-hearted, really seeing without judgment those around us. Like getting to even think about, never mind explore questions like that is an incredible gift in this training. And then another exciting shout out in Edwin's directions and for all of you, just really excited to be considering the part the rest of us plays in empathy, our felt sense, as we were talking about, you know, just being fully embodied, present beings, and how that helps us bring who we are and see who is before us. And so, yeah, that's the other thing I'm leaving here thinking about. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, Leslie. And Sam, you're up next.
Yeah, I've learned a lot. Yeah, I do also like the closeness of our group and then meeting once a week. I thought 2.5 hours was going to be a little too long, but now I realize it's probably the very balance. And if I just need to stretch or use the restroom, I just share my authenticity and just move for 2 or 3 minutes and come back. So that's interesting. Yeah, the benefits for me is just to be that fully heard, to just like be acknowledged, and it's a sense of mattering. And there is a sense of like being seen when you fully share and then have it reflected back to you. So that's a huge takeaway. Without, you know, the fixing and whatever all the empathy is not. By the way, I got a documentation, I'll send that to everyone, which is called Reflective Empathy, which is, I think it was very interesting, so I'll send that out. But yeah, the highlight for me is the empathetic listening skills that I've developed, and also honestly expressing. So it's a combination of both and so, oh, and I'm wondering how I can continue this. I'm interested in that.
Sign up for the next cohort. So thank you, Sam. Kat?
Yeah, our circle was quite insightful. As Leslie was saying, we're sort of looking at assertiveness and then sort of seeing how you can bring your own power and strength into your kind of expression, but also having empathy and holding that at the same time. So it's quite interesting to kind of see how you can trust yourself to hold that. That was really insightful. Benefits wise, I suppose for me, it's my third round, and that's like 5 months I've been doing it almost. So I would say that, yeah, it's definitely a confidence builder, I can say, and being able to feel like I'm more in touch with myself. So it's like one of those things that brings out your personal neurosis. We were saying that the other day. So now you're like, oh, I know what's all these things about me. I'm like, oh, I can work on them a bit better. So I really appreciate the environment to actually be able to witness that information without someone coming at you at the same time. And you can be like, oh, I can improve that area about myself. So it's been really good for that personal development part. And just being able to just spend time in the environment and then go into your life and be like, oh, I really want this in my life, and to think how to bring it in. So there's just so many things that are beneficial about it. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Kat. And Lou, would you like to speak?
Oh boy, I'm just so full listening to everyone. So I'm so grateful to everyone for participating. I'm grateful for the learning that is happening. I have a deep desire to make a contribution to the world, to try to make it a more empathic and more peaceful place, and to make it more humane for people to feel more accepted and like they belong. And I do see this work as being contributing to that. And so I'm so grateful to all of you for doing this work and for sharing your learnings and your thoughts about it, because it really fills me up. I would say, for anyone who wants better relationships, whether that's with their significant other or with their children or, their family or their work or their community, if you want your relationships to be better, if you want to understand yourself more, what's important to you and what you want in life, and bring that more into your life, or if you want to understand others more, if you're just puzzled or dumbfounded about why people do things the way they do and why you are in conflict maybe with others, the skills in this class really teach you how to listen to others and how to listen to yourself. And I think you've heard some of that reflected in the comments of others here, but I'd say, that's part of, so those are some of the benefits of participating in a course like this.
Thank you, Lou. And Edwin, would you like to speak?
Yeah, so in our group, we talked about sort of empathic assertiveness, and sort of to be assertive is, I think empathy is the most revolutionary, transformative sort of mindset, way of being, kind of in humanity. So, there's culturally, there was the agricultural revolution, there's all these industrial revolutions, there was, democracy, information revolution. And I think that empathy would be the biggest revolution of all of humanity if we had like, yay, if we could kind of create a culture of empathy, it'd be like totally transformative for all of humanity. So I think we're sort of on the cusp of, bringing that in. And if everyone just learned how to do an empathy circle, I mean, just a simple practice, anybody can do it, and we do it with anybody, so it's a first step, first gateway practice that, it's not the be all end all, but it's sort of that first easy first step. And so I think it's sort of to promote that. And, I've put it out there. I said, hey, I think the empathy circle is the first gateway, best gateway practice. And I put it out there. And I said, tell me any practice that you think is better, and nobody's come up with it, And so I've been thinking of putting it out there. I'm going to put $1,000 bounty. Prove to me that there's a better first step, and then I'll, give you $1,000. So I'm just thinking about, kind of that, because I really feel that this is like the first gateway, first best step And this, you know, the team has developed this practice of this training. I think is also a fantastic sort of a second step for learning how to do it. So I'm totally jazzed and think it's the best thing since sliced bread. So yeah, and since the agricultural revolution. So that's it. Thanks, Graham.
Thanks, Edwin. And so my contribution is, and I can imagine talking to somebody about the empathy circle, and I haven't tried with too many people, but I have tried with a couple at least. And that is that no matter what happens, you will enjoy yourself. So like Dustin said, at the worst, it's awesome. And at the best, it's really, really awesome. And I noticed Maria has dropped out. And Maria talked about not only do you learn the personal skills of listening, but you also learn how to speak in an empathic fashion so that you can speak within the capacity of your listener. And all these kind of things just enhance your relationships. And Bill talked about you learn a lot, but you learn at your own pace. Nobody's rushing you. And essentially after the first session or two, you're amongst friends and you're in a safe place. And it's really awesome. And you know, there's something else that's from my personal experience, and that is when you are having mental difficulties one way or another, whatever, however you may label the mental difficulties, this is the avenue for actually extracting yourself from that pile of shit, and it just life just gets better and better all the time. Anyway, so thank you, and that's my closing piece. And it's now over to Michelle. I think you've got question number 2 to facilitate. Thank you.
Yeah, wow. I'm just so moved by your words, Graham. And Edwin's. I was like, oh, I see, like a new revolution or a new religion. Question number 2 is, yes. So I'll do the same thing of as Graham is going around the screen, and it is what will you be doing next with building a culture with empathy circles? Like, so what's next? And with either empathy circles or building a culture of empathy. Yeah, and oh, 1 second. Adelina, would you like to share?
So as I was saying in the small group, I will probably will not attend the next cohort because I'm planning to go on vacation in Greece, but afterwards I will definitely be back. Maybe even I don't know if it's possible to come as a floater. Maybe I will try in 1 or 2 sessions. I'm not very sure. It depends on how I'm going to spend my time there. But I plan to still have some to participate in some empathy circles that I'm with Graham in them. So maybe even have some buddy calls with Leslie, because we already have done this before. And just keep in touch with everybody. If you want to just write me some emails or something, I'm here and I'm happy to continue talking to you. And then I'm waiting for some inspiration there to organize some empathy circles of my own when I come back. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay, we'll let you have a holiday.
Thank you. It's much needed.
Dustin.
All right, yeah. What will I be doing with the empathy circles? You know, I was kind of sharing that this is something that I'm not comfortable just like, I don't usually tell just strangers out and about that oh, by the way, I also sometimes it'll come up in conversation. Yeah, I take part of this thing called an empathy circle. It's online, but unless you go into kind of detail as to what it is, maybe I'm just not amazing at explaining what this is yet. But if I come across anybody in my future that I get kind of close with, or I think could benefit from the empathy circles, this is something I'm going to be definitely trying to get them on board with. There's also, I do want to facilitate an empathy circle one day in the future with my family. I think that would be amazing. But like I said, trying to get my family together is kind of like herding cats. It's nearly impossible. Yeah, cats, they just really like to do whatever they want to do. And you really gotta corral them, or else they never want to do anything. So anyways, this will you take the next cohort? Yes, I will take the next cohort. Yes, you can't get rid of me that easily. Yeah, absolutely. So I feel that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Sam.
Yeah, in context of some friends, I've noticed I'm slowing down a little more and listening more, and then just reflecting back what they say, and it's been helping. And that can be a fixer. I'll just admit it right now. So, and I'm noticing that when the other person says yes, I know I've connected and heard them fully. It's also been working really interesting at work as well. Just reflecting back what my customer says. And there's like that. It's like a deep sigh of connection that, yeah. So I'm feeling very inspired, so I'm going to continue that. I'll definitely share this process with my MVC groups. Yeah, and I'm definitely going to sign up. Is the next one on the same time, same date?
Yeah, same time and date. There's 3 cohorts, so you can sign up whichever one, and they kind of stay the same date and time.
And I need to donate. I haven't done that yet, shamefully, but I will. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Sam. Cian, would you like to go next?
Sure. Yeah. Well, actually, having done a couple of these cohorts here, and just yesterday, actually, I decided, okay, I'm gonna get myself together. I want to become a nanny. Not sure how that's gonna go, but I would love, if there's a space for that. I would really love to. I really love to give that a shot. Yeah, and just hearing, I think from Kat maybe last week about like how it deepens your understanding of like your personal learning by giving this to other people. So I would like to do that. And also just thinking about how I can bring this practice, other than just like I'm having an empathy circle now, but bring it into other structures, and how it can sort of support other things. Yeah, and I'd one way or another, I'd really love to stay connected with all of you.
So, Cian, I don't know if it was just for me, and I just want to check this. I think your network dropped in the middle of that, and I don't know if it dropped for everybody. And I know it didn't. Did everybody catch all of that? Okay, cool. Okay, so I don't need to do a reflection.
I wasn't clear. There was a drop.
Oh yeah. It was
were you
critical
saying you
part,
wanted to
Edwin.
be a trainee or something? I wasn't sure if that's what you were
that's
saying.
where it dropped, and it dropped there for me. But I knew from my circle with him that I could fill in that blank. So I just wanted to reflect that part to you, Edwin. Actually, that do it, Cian, do it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not sure. Did you catch like what was after that, or okay?
Yeah, it was literally just that part that dropped. So I just thought I just reflect that. Yeah. Leslie.
Yeah. So what do we plan to do next? aside from taking up residence at Adelina's while she's gone on holiday, no, definitely would love to continue with a cohort. Kind of excited and curious to see what it might be like. I'm not sort of aiming toward becoming a trainer, so it would be kind of cool to be in a group facilitated by Kian though. Yeah, I'm coming back to my film, which has very much to do with empathic relationship, broadly speaking, in our world, our short film. And I would love to get that out there, as well as continuing training. And I guess the other thing is I'm just really excited, as I said earlier, to brainstorm with anyone interested, Edwin, about, you know, maybe a little bit further down the road, but the piece of bringing embodiment into this practice. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much, lovely. Yeah, Graham, would you like to share?
Yes, please, Michelle.
Thank you.
I'm deciding to focus more on facilitating, and I'm finding there's some opportunities for developing that skill in various areas, and I'm also being invited to do so. And so this is just a tremendous opportunity, and I'm flowing with that. And so in contrast, I've been trying to set up an empathy circle here of my own in my local town, and I'm not getting any bites. But I will continue to try to promote it, but not with any reliance on it. If something happens, great. But I think there are other more productive and beneficial opportunities that I need to follow. And so that's what I'm going to do. And I'll sign up again for the next cohort.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you. Thanks, Michelle. You muted, Michelle.
Thanks, Graham. Kat, would you like to share?
Yeah, sure. I've got some time off coming up in June as well, so I won't make that particular one. I will be continuing to do the weekly ones for the personal development. And if I can pass this exam I've got coming up, then I'm looking to expand on those and maybe consider another topic as well. I don't know yet. I've got to try not to take too much on. And then I've been reflecting on my emails at work to people, which has been getting a positive reaction, like Sam was saying, in the way that they get quite excited. Even in an email, they do that. And I've been sowing little seeds in random places to see what will grow where, just kind of in the work environment I have, in the culture. I kind of trying to see if I can build that culture there, because I'm in a learning department, so it's building a culture of learning is a big theme with us, but then I'm trying to take it sideways, building a culture of empathy. And also just now we're getting out and about a bit more in Scotland. I'm just looking forward to being able to interact with people in a natural, normal way, and then also kind of give them a bit of this and obviously sow a seed as well, and see if I could do a face-to-face circle from my Thursday slots or not. So there's a few little bits going on, but I'm just taking them easy as I'm going around them. Thank you.
I'm realizing we're coming into the trainer part of it, so I might just as part of the trainings, I'll just share from myself. Yeah, the next steps for me are next cohort, and I didn't share it on the opening check-in actually, but I'm realizing that the facilitator every second week, the facilitator gatherings, like with Lou, they're like are going to be really important part of my development anyway, I think, in as I continue on this journey. So yeah, the next cohort, continuing to build my skills through that every other Friday group, personal practice, and yeah, I was thinking about what Edwin was saying there about the empathy revolution, and I remembered a monk once saying, spread the Dhamma wherever you go, and if necessary, use words. And so I kind of just like a little riff off that came to me of like, you know, spread empathy wherever you go, and if necessary, use words. And I think it was like maybe Maria and certainly Leslie, that I've heard them share this a few times as well about this like embodiment of the practice. Yeah. So that's what I think I'm gonna hold in my heart as I leave this. Or it's not really leaving it as we just like as we transition off this cohort and into the next one. Yeah. Okay, and so if we move to the trainers, Larry, would you like to share?
Thank you, Michelle. I'm just sitting here taking all this in. I heard the words, something like, I intend to embody what this training is presenting. I love that. I intend to embody, to live what this training is presenting to us. And I'm reminded of John Lennon. And John Lennon, you know, John Lennon and so many great visionaries, you know, Gandhi and Dalai Lama and Jesus Christ and so many mystics. I think they've really been trying to communicate, to live from our hearts, to live empathically, that this is the way we're naturally designed to live. And nobody's pulled it off yet to where we could spread it through a culture like Edwin has put this together, just using this technology and some Google spreadsheets and making it available. So I'm with you guys. I'm not going anywhere. You know, exactly what Dustin said. You can't get rid of me that easy. I'm right here. I'm in the game. I'm going to continue participating with Edwin, with XR, Extinction Rebellion. I'm loving this. It's good for my life and everybody's life. And I know it. And I'm staying with it. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, got John Lennon's words swimming around in my head. Lou, would you like to share?
Sure. So I think, you know, my next steps with Empathy Circles is to start them up again in my local community. So I did do that for about a year. And when COVID happened, we did it online a couple of times and then we stopped. And so I do think that that is one of the next things I want to do, is restart that. Because the idea of building a cadre of facilitators, you know, so I was putting on cafes, and I did have about maybe somewhere between 8 and 12 people that I trained as facilitators. And so this was a cadre of people in the community who understand this. And, you know, that's beginning to build capacity in the community, both just through the practice and through training people. And then I have an interest in bringing it into my family, which not my immediate family, because we actually listen to each other pretty well, but the larger family where we get together for gatherings, and I just think it'd be interesting to see what would happen if people started listening to each other that way. So that's me.
Thank you. Cool. Bill, would you?
Sure. Well, my next step, actually, I've been doing it for a while, is to bring empathy circles into schools. I think that is the transformative thing that would really have an effect. because if it was incorporated into a practice that kids are learning and practicing every day, those skills would be of immense benefit. So I'm giving a little plug there. I have tomorrow at this time in my empathy circle, not this one. You're welcome to drop in. It's a drop-in cafe. I've really been excited about the energy that's been happening. And I'm just going to try to get into the schools however long it takes. Thanks.
Cool. Edwin?
Yeah, so next steps for me is this cohort will start again, the next iteration of it, 3 or 4, maybe, not sure how many weeks from now. We have to see how long it takes to get, a full cohort of about 21 participants. So being summer, I think things are a little bit slower. In the meantime, I'm working on the development of the, keep building on what Lou and Bill have started here with the training, is to do more with developing the how-to practice. So there's some better steps for clear steps for doing how you take part in presenting the how-to, and some material there. I'm going through the videos. We have a lot of different sessions, going through the frequently asked questions and editing those out and making separate video clips and a catalog for the frequently asked questions, a video and multimedia catalog. And then also the challenges that we're slowly harvesting the videos and making role plays of those. So there's a lot of different sort of technical just for the curriculum to really get it, kind of fleshed out. So that's kind of the immediate, that's going to take some time. And then I'm hoping, as we talked about, doing more with a kind of a module 2 of how do we go deeper with the empathic listening? How do you listen better, speak more empathically, listen more deeply? So yeah, it's ongoing development of the training, and to get the politicians to do empathy circles. So working on that project too. Yeah. Thanks.
I'm just reflecting on like the opening check-in from yourself when you were talking about like being listened to for an hour. And I'm thinking about all the projects that you have ongoing and the amount of work there. And I was curious about this challenge, like, the challenges you set every week, and if one of them can be like an empathy for Edwin challenge.
Yeah, good idea.
We just create this like this flood of empathy for you that can kind of like, energize all of that, like just vast amount of like work that's behind this whole movement.
I'm all for that. I'd actually thought of empathy, like maybe we could try like a marathon. We spend that. What would happen if like different tests like this, if we did like an 8-hour empathy circle, if you'd like to take part, what does it do to your sort of mindset? So those are other projects that we can do. 8-hour or maybe even more. So something for the World Book or Guinness World Book of Records or something.
And Edwin, I've done one day where I've done 8 hours worth of empathy sessions, and one of them was 6 hours back to back.
Oh, wow.
And I'll guarantee you sleep well afterwards.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. That's really sweet. Yeah, you can just imagine the difference between that and a marathon. It's like empathy is so energizing. A marathon, you're like crossing the finishing line, and empathy is just like so, heart expanding that you're like, yeah, it's really, yeah. So, so.
Just a thought on that. Maybe it would be a great hybrid to have an empathy circle marathon and a dance marathon.
Cool. So I'll pass to Lou if that's okay. I think this
Sure.
This part finished?
Yeah, so my job is
I broke the format a little bit there, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
My job is just to bring the training to an end. So I think Edwin already talked about the next cohort and encouraging people to sign up for that if you would like to continue. And I will also mention again, so I did post in the chat the information about the Friday Facilitator Support Group. And that is our way of providing ongoing support for growth, learning, practice of facilitators. And that's both with the skill of the empathy circle, the skill of facilitating, and then the inner skill, you know, of knowing yourself and expanding your capacities, because those certainly affect your capacity to facilitate. Yeah, and it's every other week. And like, it's not this week, but it's next week. And that's also something I didn't mention in my ongoing work. You know, what's for me is to continue to develop that session as a meaningful place for facilitators to come and keep growing and to connect with each other. Other than that, I don't think there's a lot more to say. Bill, do you have anything you want to say, kind of wrapping up?
Yeah. This has sort of gotten, I believe, a little bit of a short shrift here. But we talked about the culture of empathy and the values there. And we talked about empathy, mutuality, openness, and care. And I'll just say that it's one thing to do the technical pieces of the empathy circle, but I hope that people don't lose sight of those values. And, you know, as a feedback, you know, do I hear care? Is there mutuality? Is there empathy going on? That's the heart and some of what's going on underneath. And I'd hope to talk about that more, but we don't really have time. So it's a reminder you know, just to be aware of it and to listen for those things too, beneath the words. I think that's important. Thank you.
Absolutely. So thank you everyone for participating. And, you know, look forward to connecting with you more as we go forward. And if we don't see you again, you know, best of luck to you in the things that you do.
You can post one feeling there that you're having, and we'll send out another empathy buddy. You can have a final empathy buddy. So sort of a
okay.
Fun. Yeah. Send that out. So see you next time. Thank you.
Yes.
So
bye everyone. Thank you.
So there we go. And our trainees will stay back for final debrief.
Yes.
See you, Leslie, Kian, Dustin, Adelina.
Thank you.